This episode is brought to you by Judy Carter and her legendary quote, "Audiences don't respond to words, they respond to emotions."
And copious amounts of alcohol.
Welcome to the Stephan Dyer Podcast, my people. Welcome to the Stephan Dyer Podcast, my people. ¿Cómo están, damas y caballeros? This is the Stephan Dyer Podcast. I am Stephan Dyer, your host, former banker turned comedian and lifestyle entrepreneur. And today, my friends, we have the
Someone canceled and I filled in last minute.
the unbreakable, the unmistakable, the highly capable Iván Wanis Ruiz, probably the only person in the podcast history who's been like, bio, screw bios. I don't have a bio. I don't care about bios, but here are very, very cool facts about me. So, I loved it.
I can touch my tongue with my nose. Which one of these is a lie, listening audience? Number one, I can touch my tongue with my nose. Number two, I French kiss Stephan. Number three, I can do a backflip. Put it in the comments. The answer is, haha, they're all lies.
Well, you know what to expect for this next hour. I had written a little bio because I worked.
Okay, cool.
Because I worked with Iván in several events, and I feel like he is arguably one of the best MCs that I've worked with in my entire career.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Wow.
I mean, it's one of the podcast traditions to tell people why I invited them. So I wrote a little bit.
How many people podcast listeners has he said is possibly the greatest blank that I've ever been in?
All of them.
Do you say that to all the girls?
No.
Do you say that to all the girls? Will you call me in the morning?
Iván Wanis Ruiz is an MC, trainer, author, and speaker. And then I creeped him on LinkedIn.
Did you?
And on Facebook, on Instagram. But the things that he gave me on the forum for the podcast were far more interesting. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is what he said. Buyers are boring. Instead, here are some fun facts. He's a top-rated instructor on Coursera with over 140,000 learners.
But 155 now, actually, yeah.
Top-rated instructor on Udemy with over 50,000 students.
That's up to, but I can't remember how much.
65,000.
65,000.
69,000.
And growing. Nice.
This is my favorite fact. Official host for the 2021 FIFA Arab Cup.
And maybe, I don't know yet, we'll see, maybe for the World
Maybe
Cup.
Qatar?
Yeah,
that is
maybe
insane.
Yep.
The largest crowd he ever spoke in front of was 40,000. Is that bigger now?
It's probably a fit. Like the last time was at the FIFA Arab Cup, and there was one stadium that was like 65,000.
That is incredible.
And it's just me on the jumbotron going like.
You couldn't say people responded to like enormous amounts of alcohol because it was in the Middle East, right?
It was
no
super
alcohol.
in the Middle East. There was no alcohol. There is actually alcohol there in Qatar and in the UAE. They have alcohol, but it's like very regulated. Like for example, do you want me to let you finish this thing? Or
Okay.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called End Boring, and he can teach you how to salsa dance.
Yes, I can.
And now tell me, the alcohol. I had a friend living in Saudi.
Yeah,
He's Canadian. But there's compounds. And according to what I heard, maybe it's a lie, maybe in different countries, I went to Dubai once, and sometimes they let you, if it's part of your culture where maybe you're Canadian, and you can only use it for you and your family. It's like very regulated.
Yeah.
What was your experience?
Basically the exact same thing. When you go into Qatar, and that's where my experience is, essentially the big American hotels all have bars.
Okay.
So you can drink there. But it's I had a vodka soda.
Wow.
And thank you. And it was like $25 US. It was like 30 Canadian. It was crazy expensive. And you have to give your ID when they write down your passports.
Wow.
When you go into a bar. And then they have like you can get a license to buy alcohol for like you and your friends to have at home if you're like a Westerner. But it's very you can only buy like a bottle a month or something like that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, you better use it wisely. Like you invite some friends over, you party it up, and it's done for the month.
But dude, I will tell you, there's like there was like the Holiday Inn. Was it the Holiday? It was like a Holiday Inn or whatever.
Yeah.
It was, and they had this. It was like a big resort hotel, and they had like a private beach. and there's walls all around, so because basically for all the Westerners, you can hang out in a bikini and stuff like that. And it was just like a rager. I walked in there and it was like, and people are just like, there's the bar is like just people drinking shots. It was just like being at like, you know, like at an all-inclusive kind of a bleep this shit show. And,
you can swear. You can swear. I love it.
Yeah, it was being, and it was nuts. But then I'll tell you actually really another fun story. So, you know, I salsa dance, you know?
Yeah.
And in a different life, I actually went to salsa school.
Okay.
And I thought that was going to be my career, you know?
You look like a guy who could sell and enjoy and entertain people at salsa.
Dancing?
Yeah.
They mix now because I do like salsa dancing events. Next week I'm going in and I'm hosting a salsa dancing event. Yeah. Just because I can dance and like that kind of thing. But anyway, I forgot my point. Oh yeah, okay. So I'm uncut, right? And there's a salsa night there.
Yeah.
And when you go there, it's in this bar, and you know it's just like a normal bar. It's in a hotel, in a Western hotel. And as I'm waiting outside, I see this like crazy looking, like just souped up Mustang, you know, very Middle East. Like, you can't just own a car. It has to be like the most expensive kind of car. So this Mustang pulls up, right? And this woman in a full burqa comes out, right? Opens the trunk, takes it off, wearing like a little salsa dress, grabs her heels, and goes into the salsa night.
No way.
Dude. Yes. And that's just the way a lot of that culture. It's like they all do it, just nobody talks about it. That's like a little bit of the culture.
I heard that in the Middle East that women who have the what do you call the specific?
There's different ones, but like let's say burqa, which is the one that covers your head and your body, but not necessarily your face.
I heard that under the burqas they have like the most expensive dresses, like Armani, Gucci, thousands of dollars.
Big time.
I mean, all these little things. In my view, the diversity of your presentations in different countries, different audiences, just make you bulletproof for the next one in many ways. Obviously, there's things you can't control that you're going to still continue to learn, but your hashtag, and I feel like the best part of your brand is hashtag end boring.
Yeah.
I went on your website like a year ago. We had already worked together and we had a really good friendship. And one of the things that I loved, apart from the videos and the demos and everything, was that very similar to our company's core values, you believe that charisma, confidence, and an executive presence can be learned, or physical actions that can be learned.
Yeah.
Your techniques are very unconventional and based on neuroscience and evolutionary biology. Poker, I love that. Modern police interrogation and lie detection.
Yeah.
Professional wrestling and banking. Busking.
Busking, yeah.
And
I don't know if bankers count as the best communicators.
You know, yeah, I know. But the next line was improv and stand-up comedy. So naturally, someone who quit banking and then went into comedy, I was like, I thought busking said banking because I'm so used to seeing it in the same sentence.
Yeah, you know, at late night, you go turn on the TV, watch some bankers talk. It's great. It's good stuff, home. It's good stuff.
How did your journey start? Because you're an exceptional MC. You teach public speaking all over the world. You do hosting for World Cups, Salsa St. Clair, the Pan American Food Festival, fashion shows, the Pan Am Games, the Invictus Games.
And then, a bunch of stuff, just random stuff, all the time.
But
Gun for hire.
Let's go.
You can find me at
Tinder, Grindr,
Grindr, Flopper, Dipper, Panflip. That's a good one, Panflip.
I'm going to drop some clues here, but I know that you did go to McGill.
Yep.
And I know that you speak English, Spanish, and French. And I know that you were raised...
one French listener.
And you were raised in BC, in Vancouver.
Yep.
But how did this journey of entertaining people and teaching at the same time start for you?
Well, it was a dark and stormy night.
In 1984.
It was a different time. An innocent time. Duran Duran was #1 in the music charts.
A lovely time.
A Walkman was a device.
A lot of these people don't even know what a Walkman is, or a Discman.
You think maybe, I don't know. Actually, so listeners, if you know what a Walkman is or a Discman, put a smiley face in the comments of this podcast episode. Just put a smiley face and be like wink wink, you know? That's how we'll do it.
I would love that.
Let me tell you something. Okay. Every job I've ever had, I was not very good at. I actually worked in finance. I worked in a brokerage firm, and I was terrible at it. I worked in sales. I was terrible at it. I was an accountant. I was terrible at it. I hated it. I just wasn't good at it, and I hated it. I was like, I actually cried once. I remember I cried and called my mom.
What did you study?
I was so upset.
Did you study finance?
Yeah. I went to McGill. I was a business student. I did finance and marketing. You know what I mean? International business. I did like 3 concentrations. But the one thing that was consistent, because before I went to university, I spent 2 years traveling around British Columbia doing interactive workshops on racism and violence.
Wow.
For the Ministry of Attorney General's office. So by the time I went to university, I was like, I had all this experience speaking, and then it just developed more. And when I was in school, I got to do case competitions, which is like these academic competitions, but I actually got to travel around the world and compete like in internet. Yeah. And oops, sorry.
You're good.
So, but here's the thing. If we're honest, there's so many people who are like quote unquote communications experts, right?
Yeah.
But really what they are is someone who worked in sales for 20 years, or someone who worked in marketing for 20 years, or some person who like I watch these TED Talks sometimes and I pull my hair out because like you obviously have no idea what you're talking about. You just did some research and now you're a professional speaker.
Yeah.
Like I did this one. This is going to be great audio. So I watched one and this person's like, did you know if you tilt your head, you come across as more comfortable? And I was like, if someone did this to me, I'd be like, what is wrong with your face? Like certainly sometimes we move our heads and stuff, but it was like, and they were saying like, that's a tactic. So there's people in the world right now that are going to be talking and literally just.
Yeah.
There. Empathy. Dude, so here's what I did. This is why I have all this random stuff. After all these jobs that sucked, they sucked, but I didn't like them. I thought to myself, let's maybe try and make a business out of this public speaking thing, because in all the jobs, that seemed to be the one thing that everyone liked. It's like, oh, Iván, you know when you do the training when you have a new job?
100%.
Like, Iván, why don't you do the presentation? Iván looks good in front of people. And I was like, cool, that's what I like to do. So I did Toastmasters. You're a Toastmaster.
Yeah, we're both DTMs.
Yeah.
We're both DTMs.
And I thought, okay, that gives me a little credibility. Then I went and did the Dale Carnegie thing. I was a Dale Carnegie trainer for a while.
Wow.
But the thing I realized was, it was like MMA.
Mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
I love the UFC.
So here's the thing. The UFC started because what's better, karate or taekwondo or boxing? That's how you have to think about the communication stuff. Because Toastmasters, you could be a really good Toastmaster, but some of it, let's be honest, some of it looks a little forced or it's a little formal sometimes.
100%.
Right? And guess what? How often are you going to tell a story about when you were a kid and then you have a cry? Like, how does that apply to, like, I'm an accountant and I have to present a spreadsheet? You know what I mean?
So true.
Dale Carnegie, same thing. They become dogmatic. So I thought to myself, there's a missing piece here. So, for example, I started interviewing and I started going and watching stand-up comedy, became a big stand-up comedy fan. And I was like, well, aren't these guys really good public speakers? And yeah, but they say, they cross their arms. Absolutely. They do all these things that bad speaking, but it's not, it's normal. And they're way better at it, I would argue, because it's hard to make people laugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, but then.
And they connect with audiences.
Big time, right? Like even doing something like audience warm-up. For anyone who doesn't make the show, there's always a host and they do a little bit of audience warm-up where he's like, so where are you from? And they're like, Chicago. Chicago. And then everyone laughs. That's all you have to do. You're like, You know what I mean? Well, how does that translate to when you're at a conference? That's the question that I was trying to figure out. Because they don't have the full story. Because a stand-up comic can be like, okay, talk about a spreadsheet. Like, they can't.
Totally.
So then I said, there's got to be discrepancy. So I realized it's like MMA. Instead of learning from one source, I tried to learn from all these other sources. Professional wrestling, one of the most interesting kind of topics on communication I've ever learned is from professional wrestling. Because I was once learning to be a professional wrestler for a movie. I was a movie. I had this whole other life. I don't know if you know this, as an actor.
And no, I didn't. When I Googled you, I saw actor.
Yeah,
I'm like, what? IMDb.
Yeah.
I saw your IMDb profile.
So I was in this movie where I played a luchador called El Robato Magnifico. And so I had to learn professional wrestling. And part of that was I went and watched shows like with the cast, and they would break down what wrestlers do. And they had a couple of really interesting ideas that I still use to this day. But then I was like, that's not the full story, man. So then I started,
now we want to know, what is it? Public wrestlers.
Exactly. And you see what I did there, audience? I just manipulated Stephan into asking me a question.
There we go.
Boom! Communication.
We didn't rehearse that.
Mind games. I'm right here now.
Hire me.
I'm up here. I'm here now.
Yes, you are.
That's right.
La marioneta. Títeres. Ding.
Or milking a cow.
Or milking.
Both involve tetas. Okay.
I love it.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you go back into the 1950s and 60s and 70s when wrestling really started like finding its kind of niche and became a popular thing, they would have good guys and bad guys. To this day, there's good guys and bad guys, right? Faces and heels. But one of the things that they noticed is they would try to introduce these good guys. And half the time, people would boo them or they'd cheer when they got beat up.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to make people like someone. However, it is very easy to make people dislike something.
Mm-hmm.
So to this day, and for anyone, if you're curious, just go and watch professional wrestling. Watch. Even go. I've been to a few luchador fights in Mexico. Go watch this. They will never introduce a good guy first. They will always introduce a villain, and the villain gets people riled. And there's strategies, but I'll get them. And then literally anyone who comes up and fights them, people love.
Yeah.
So the concept is, it is very difficult to make people like something, but it's very easy to make them dislike something. So when you're communicating, if you want to convince people of something, here's what we all do. We give you all the facts and evidence and we try and convince you. But then you still go, okay, but what about this? What about that? Or like, let me think about it, right? The smart speaker gives you a bunch of options, but makes them all villains. And then whatever you present last, you're like, or we could do this. And it gives people the illusion that they're choosing. And it helps people to like go with what you're saying because you've made everything else a bad guy. But this won't work. This won't work. We could do this, but this, or we could do this.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden people are like, okay, well let's talk about that last option. And then they got him.
I love it. And that good guy thing is so true even in stand-up where comedy, one of the ways to see it is truth and pain. What humor is in some definitions, it's truth plus pain or tragedy plus time. And it essentially says when you laugh about something that's true, it's because, oh yeah, that's relatable. And when you laugh at somebody else's pain, it's like, oh, that's funny and I'm happy that my life isn't as shitty as I thought it was because your life is worse. And then what we always tell our students is nobody likes or expects you to be perfect. Nobody connects with the perfect Herbalife guy who has like the Lamborghini or whatever. Like, you can stand up there and tell me the winning lottery numbers, but I can't connect with you, you know? Mm. So, but when you're raw, when you are authentic and when you're just yourself, that really connects with people. Yeah. So I totally agree.
Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been mean to the audience?
Yeah.
And do they love it? Do they love the abuse? What happens?
Well, at the beginning, oh yeah, there's a fine line.
Put your hands up. Everyone put your hands up. You better put your hands up. We all know. Everybody look at this guy. Put your pants down. Everybody laugh at him. Now, let's introduce our next comic.
Yeah.
Like that, maybe? No?
Well, what I do is, one of the things that helps is if you bug yourself a little bit before you bug the audience. The other thing that helps with crowd work is you got to engage the engaged, because if you're bugging the guy or picking on the guy who's on his cell phone or who doesn't look engaged, it's going to be like an uphill battle to transform this guy into wanting to be a part of the show. But if you got the guy who's engaged or leaning in or kind of smiling or the body language is inviting a little bit, you could do that. The other thing is you got to know your audience. Mm-hmm. Because it can't be too soon, you know. If one time I met in my first year or whatever, I don't know, we were in London or something where there's a lot of Colombians. Okay. And I said, that's why they call it Londombia, you know. And in London, Ontario. And I said,
tip your waitresses.
I said basically like, oh, do we have any Colombians in the house? And they're like, yeah. And I said, guys, watch your wallets. Oh. But it was all Colombians, and I'm not Colombian. So
they didn't like it?
And they didn't like it. They were like, ooh. And I don't know how I handled it, but like I was able to overcome it. But now I just don't care, because you have the stage presence enough and the experience to not let that throw you off. But if you get that in your first couple of weeks or in your first couple months, it could throw you off. Some people just walk off stage, you know? But now, like the other day, I was like, where are my Peruvians at? 2 days ago, I was in Ottawa. Where are my Peruvians at? And I was like, they were like, yeah. And they were like, round of applause for Peru, which could not beat Australia to make it into the World Cup. And they were like, oh, okay. And then, but the Colombians are going to the World Cup. And they're like, no,
Power
we're
cocaine,
not.
Everybody, power cocaine.
We're like, no, we're not. I was like, oh, sorry about that. And I was like, but the, I don't know which other country I picked that wasn't going to the World Cup. And they were kind of pissed. But then I was like, round of applause for Ecuador because they're going to the World Cup and everything. So you just now with more time, I'm able to navigate that. But
there's that really famous stand-up with Bill Burr.
Oh, Philadelphia?
Yeah, where he just goes up on stage and just tears up. And the reason I thought of it was because I don't know a lot about sports, but like he starts tearing up all their sports teams, and people are like, yeah.
I mean, you got to know the audience because it was like a rock concert, like a radio festival. Everybody was wasted. These were like all white people. They booed off the comedian like right before.
Whoa. Why does the white matter?
Well.
Wow, audience! Did you guys
cancel me?
You all just experienced racism right there. Look at that. I'll tell you something. It has nothing to do with the story either. I guarantee it has nothing to do with the story. He was just saying that. Oh my goodness! Woo!
And I did.
And welcome to the last episode, Stephan Dyer Podcast, everybody. This is it. So might as well talk some shit.
We got another hour of the last episode of episode 65. Just messed this whole thing up.
Is this? Oh, it's been so good.
At least we would have made it to 69.
If you would have made it to 69, that would have been awesome.
But in the context of that...
Isn't it funny how 69 and 420, no matter... Yeah, see, you got the look in your eye. No matter what, that's just become part of the zeitgeist. And if you think about it, and this is a really interesting kind of concept with communication. Because I talk about making like anchors, which are like billboards. Because a billboard anchors in your head and produces all this other information, all this other history. And if you think about it, 69 and 420 do that. Because all you have to do, it doesn't matter if you're 15 or 55. And listen, I've been in worse of 55. Someone's like, yeah, 69. And there's always someone like, oh, yeah. How about that now? Woo!
100%.
Right? It's interesting. It's interesting how that... In 50 years, there's still going to be someone who's like, 42069 on my license plate, bro! Woo!
I'm really interested
in 420
tying it at 420 and 69, tying in with Philadelphia.
Welcome to the Stephan Dyer Podcast.
The last
After Hours.
The last episode.
After Hours, where we talk about 69 and 420. Watch the video to watch us do it together.
Sign up.
Sign up.
On our OnlyFans.
On the OnlyFans.
Where the OnlyFans that we have will be there. Yeah. 2 of them.
All the Colombian guys who love you so much.
Oh, yeah. After that comment 7 years ago. So what advice would you give to people who are like introverts?
Give up.
In a cubicle.
Go home.
At a bank. And they're trying.
Invest in a money market fund.
Take your course on Coursera.
Yeah, take my course.
And they're really trying to give presentations where they simply don't suck and people don't fall asleep. Because what ends up happening in my experience, similar to you teaching thousands of people, is you have a lot of people who are subject matter experts at what they do. But then when they teach and try to share that knowledge, everybody falls asleep.
Yeah.
So when it comes to ending boring presentations, is it practicing a lot at home? Is it ditching the pitch or ditching... Because what I hate the most is people coming in with 987 slides of PowerPoint and then reading them in front of the audience. And you're like, dude, I can read too. You should have just sent me that PowerPoint.
Yeah.
So can we give people, and I'm really interested in your take, the top 5 things to do to immediately connect with people and not make them fall asleep?
Well, let me answer your question in a couple of ways here, okay? Because I don't know if I give you top 5, but I can give you some ideas. Okay?
Yeah, 100%.
But let me ask the audience something first, because this is something I always ask people. What is the goal of a presentation? I ask this all the time, and people will say, and you hear, to inform, to convince people, to sell something, right? And then I follow it up in saying, what are the odds that in like 20 minutes, an hour, you're going to convince the 15, 20, 30 people in the room, all of them, to sell something, to buy something? What are the odds you're going to convince them all? And the odds are like none. Like very low.
Slim to none.
So if you think about it, everything we've been told about the goal for a good presentation has been setting yourself up for failure. Because you know you can't do it, yet you do it anyway. It's the same thing that happens all the time. People sit there, and everyone here knows what I'm talking about. You sit there and you will watch a super boring presentation like, dude, I don't want to read all these slides. But then what do? Look in the mirror, listener. What do you do? Hey, YouTube, what do? You do the exact same thing because no one has shown an alternative.
Yes.
Because no one has given you a different objective. So let me first say, here's what I always say. The goal of a good presentation is none of those things, because none of those are achievable. The goal of a good presentation is curiosity. Instead of giving you all the information, give as little information as possible and make them curious, because if I'm curious, guess what? I will read your slide deck afterward. I will spend time on my own to find out. Here's the sign of a successful presentation. You got a line of people saying, hey, how can I find out more? Hey, can we meet? I want to ask you some questions. If you can do that, boom, then you're a successful presenter.
Yeah.
Think about the most successful styles of presenting that have come up in the last 10 to 15 years. Most of you will think of something like a TED Talk. Now, what a TED Talk did is it took all the details out of presentations, good ones at least, not all of them.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about TEDx. Because TEDx's are a whole other beast, right? Those are individual. I'm talking like the real old school TED, where they would take all the details out and give you all these little fun little things. You're like, really? How did that? Is that true? Let me find out. They would just give you
ideas worth sharing,
and it was never details. Another really good example is a Pecha Kucha.
What's that?
You know what a Pecha Kucha is?
No.
No? A Pecha Kucha is another, you can think of it almost like a TED Talk, but it's a format style where you have 20 slides and you have 10 seconds per slide.
Wow.
And that's it.
What language is that word?
And it's Japanese, but there's a Pecha Kucha in every city in the world. So anywhere you're living now, listeners or viewers, just do Pecha Kucha, your city. Like Pecha. Kucha. Pecha Kucha.
Wow, I didn't know about this.
Like, chess, like pecha.
Yeah.
And then kucha, like kuchi kuchi ku. Again, the whole concept being, but I don't even think they realize it, that they are essentially giving presentations that instead of answering the question, beg the question. That's the secret. That's curious. Instead of giving you all the details, make you curious with as little details as possible. So to answer the second part, how do you practice? You said like, oh, should they practice more? Sort of. Stephan, how do most people practice?
Well, in my experience, a lot of people practice in their heads, which is useless. And a lot of people read out the slides, which in my opinion is useless as well. And a lot of people will stand in front of a mirror while reading the slides, which it doesn't help me because I'm distracted by the mirror, by me moving.
I mean, look at you. I'd be distracted.
I can't help
yourself, it. It's like the fawns, like you look in the mirror.
I didn't ask for this, I didn't, this is the body that I got.
Some people just are born with good genetics. Look at those lips.
What I do for comedy is
You just get up there and be like, hey, look at me. Hey, look at me.
Look at me.
Mírame ahorita.
Look at me.
But, so here's the thing about practice, because you're right. This is what happens. People practice, and then they have to do it for real, and right away you stumble. You forget what you're talking about. And the reason is, here's the first tip. It's not practicing more. It's how you practice. Because
totally.
Unless you practice with the stress of being watched, you're not practicing. So here's what I mean. The only reason you stumble and forget what you're saying is because when you have to do it in front of other people for the first time, your adrenaline kicks in, and then fight or flight kicks in, right? It's an adrenal response. It's a biological response.
100%.
Right? So do you have calluses on your hands?
No, not really. Not really. But I used to do when I had a
whatever office job. Okay, so look at this proof. I have calluses. Okay.
From dancing salsa. Oh, so
no,
tough.
From excessive masturbation. From dancing salsa. Oh yeah, sorry. From dancing salsa.
From dancing salsa and
Excessive master. Sorry. No, wait. Ask me again.
Excessive master. Oh, because you did wrestling from back in the day.
No, I just like to do chin-ups. I'm a chin-up guy.
Oh, you're a chin-up guy? Yeah, you look like a chin-up guy.
Chin-up guy. Now, here's the thing. Calluses doesn't make the pressure of holding a heavy weight go away. You just don't feel it so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's the secret. If you practice with nervousness, you are always going to be nervous, but you will build a calluses to it, so it does not affect your delivery. So the question becomes, how do you do it? Like, how do I practice with nervousness? Let me give you 3 strategies right now. Strategy number 1, you go up to somebody like you live with, a partner, family member, or a friend, you say, hey, can I practice a little bit of my presentation in front of you? They have to say yes.
Yes.
They might go like, okay, sure. Good, because then you get more nervous.
Yes.
And this is what's going to happen. You're going to stand up in front, like suppose that Stephan and I live together, right? And I say, can I practice my presentation? And you say,
yes.
Okay. Then this is what's going to happen. You're going to look at him and you're going to be like, okay, hold on. Wait, I have to start again. Because that's what you do when you get nervous. Do that in front of the same person 5-6 times. It goes away. Then you do it in front of a different person. It comes back. But each time you do it, you're building calluses.
Yes.
But Iván, I live alone. I have no friends. What do I do?
That's why I listen to this podcast.
That's why I listen to this podcast.
Because I have no friends.
Yeah. What do you do then? This is the most effective, but I will tell you, the hardest. And this is what I do. Okay. I 100% will tell you it works. You have to go walk around the block, go stand in a park. Even if no one is around, you will feel so self-conscious, you will forget even if you are memorized, you will forget. And I'll tell you, I was doing a coaching session with a senior VP at a major bank here. And they had to do like a big national sales conference like 4 years ago. And so we go to the boardroom, we practice a presentation, and he was killing it. So then I said, okay, let's go outside. And believe me, when I tell you, that I had this guy on the corner of Yonge and Bloor in Toronto. And for anyone who doesn't live in Toronto, just think of a very popular, very busy intersection in your downtown. And I made him stand 10 feet away from me, and I said, go ahead, give me a presentation. And he's like, but there's all these people around. I was like, I know.
That's why.
He could not remember. He's like, he couldn't even do it. He's like, I don't remember I forgot my opening already. We did that for a couple of sessions. He was the crazy man on the street. And he's like, you know what, Iván? I asked him, how did the presentation go? He's like, you know what? I was super nervous when I had to do it for real. But after all that stuff we were doing, it was like, It was nothing. So you will always be nervous. There is no such thing as not being nervous. It's natural.
I agree.
But you build calluses. And let me give you another example. Here's a controversial point of view. Most stand-up comics aren't that funny. Boom! I said it.
Boom! He said it.
Here's what I'm saying. Every stand-up comic, really big ones, everyone, will get material and bomb constantly.
100%.
They'll go to like a Monday night, midnight show, and they'll get up on stage and try out, because what they're doing is they're practicing in front of people to polish their delivery. And so when you see their stand-up special, they have been practicing with the stress of being watched and failing for months. That's why they look so natural when they present. When they're presenting, it's not that they're not nervous; they still are.
Yes.
But because they've replicated that situation so many times. In the military, they replicate combat situations. In sports, if you play, you like football, right?
Yeah.
You like soccer. That's why they will replicate tournaments. We're going to bring a bunch of people in to watch you guys, because the stress of being watched will always produce nervousness. But really, professionals build calluses.
I love that. I absolutely agree. What I tell my students is, when they practice like it's the real day. Obviously, you can't replicate an audience of 100 people in your living room.
But you can go outside in a park where there's a bunch of people around.
But you can do that. And what I tell them is, pretend like this is the real day. So dress up like it is. Come in from the left if you're going to come in from the left on that day on the audience. Hold a ketchup bottle if you're going to have a mic that day. Wear the heels or the shoes or the tie or whatever, because there's a lot of things you can't control, but the ones you can will actually mind fuck you to make you feel like you're there. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is, you you're never going to say 100% of the words that you wrote perfectly in order. You don't even want to, because you don't want to be the guy who messes up one word and then he's like, where do I go? Because that wasn't the word that was there. So I tell them, start that presentation and finish it, because the day of, you won't be able to be like, hey guys, can I start over? So finish it, then look at the script. And even what we do in comedy, especially if it's a new set, is that we have a cheat sheet of keywords.
Oh.
So like comics will have...
You write in reminders. That's what I told you. Just write in reminders.
Yeah, like keywords.
Show the thing.
So basically...
Can I just intrude on you for
100%, man.
Because the whole concept of keywords is very interesting, because I also interviewed Bruce Buffer.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and I asked him about how does he prepare for the names and everything, and he essentially does that. He has a cheat sheet card.
Yeah, the UFC.
He doesn't write it in sentences. He doesn't write anything word for word, but he writes little reminders.
Yes.
And he writes them in, and here's the other thing. Can I see that for a minute?
And no!
Don't say it, because then you gotta pay him. But the other big thing that you're doing, that I don't know if you're doing on purpose, that I want to highlight to the audience, which is really good, is that you write in large letters.
Yes.
So that if you put the notes down at a table and you're standing 4 to 5 feet away,
that's why
you can still glance at it. And Bruce Buffer does the same thing. He writes in very big words.
Yes.
So that even when he's like talking, and he'll just quickly glance down like that because he can see it at a glance. And I just did it, right? And that's
that's exactly it, my friend. So what we do, and all our students will be like, yeah.
By the way, what is it? Can I see that? Hold on. I'm just going to interrupt here. Let me read everyone what the crowd work. Pandemic. Brackets. Fat. It's I'm going to say that this is the International Pedo Association.
Pediatric, yes.
Okay. I think pedo would be funnier.
But it says int ped ass.
Baby voice. 62 cents. Examine el banco. Look at banks. Explore banks. Cheap labor. That's definitely a Latino joke.
It is.
All the Mexicans in the room just getting real offended. Lo siento, mi gente. Mira.
And then the next one is where...
No me culpa. Jail/rape me. So if you guys want to... This makes me want to watch your show. GIP? G-I-P?
Yeah. GIP
MBA?
means guapo, inteligente y con plata.
Ah. Yes, I am. Reggaeton. And then bad presidents.
Exactly.
So that's a very interesting, and the idea is each one of those is a memory anchor.
That's exactly it.
You look at cheap labor and it reminds you of all the things you have to say, and then because it reminds you of all the things you have to say, you don't have to say them word for word, and it'll be different delivery every time. So when you do stand-up, or when you're giving, let's say, especially with stand-up, because a lot of people are recording stand-up, it allows you to have a slightly different delivery every time.
And it looks authentic. Yeah. Exactly.
I gotta still, okay.
So the cheat sheet that we use for this, to finish this, the cheat sheet thing, is that you're absolutely right. It's in capital letters, big letters, because...
Size matters.
What we tell our students is that if they end up forgetting, can I get a little bit of that?
Sorry, there's not enough for both of us.
That sucks. If they end up forgetting their material, I tell them to use the water trick, which is say, 1 second, I'm just going to drink a little bit of water. Or don't even say 1 second. Just go as you're talking, get a little bit of water. If you feel like you're forgetting your material, and as you're drinking, you just look at the cheat sheet gently, which is under your glass of water, and then it doesn't look like very obvious. You can also do it. The whole idea is to do it like 2 or 3 times if you want, because if your mouth is dry, go and have some water. If you forget your material, go and have some water. If you just want to pause, go and have some water. And while you're crowd working, you can drink some water so that you don't leave that awkward silence. I don't like to say that it's awkward, because as you also say, like pauses and eye contact demands attention. So even if you're drinking water, that pause will look like a boss move. Like, wow, Iván is...
You're so comfortable.
Yeah, you're so comfortable. A lot of these big comedians and really good speakers, sometimes they'll be smoking a joint on stage. They'll be having like a glass of whiskey. Some people will have a guitar and a cigar. And that just makes you look and appear more wise, like just more in control, like you're enjoying it, you know?
So what I'm taking from that is, if you want to be a better speaker, start smoking.
That is 100% right.
And start drinking in front of people for no reason. There you go.
Is there anything specific that you do before presentations where you prepare? Because I agree. The putting yourself, like I've failed so many times, I just don't care about another failure. I mean, I'm still nervous when I'm there. Obviously, I don't want to fail. But I've sucked in so many different environments and presentations in my career that another one, it doesn't keep me up at night. But for the banker or for the engineer who has to present in 3 weeks, sometimes people don't sleep for 3 weeks. Yeah. So what do you do before the presentation in terms of preparing? Do you do breathing stuff? Do you write it out and then practice a lot? What keeps your nerves down and how do you prepare? He's drinking a little bit of water.
Well, it's funny. Because this is another way that I practice.
Yes.
I sneak my presentation into social conversations.
Beautiful.
So if people are hanging out, and one of the things that I do is when a company hires me, I learn the business. Because a lot of the reason why people don't respect, people don't respect like people who teach soft skills. It's a trope, like we're gonna hold hands and talk about our feelings and our passion. Is because these people come in with generic content or content that only applies to their 20 years in sales. Well, what do you know about airport security? And they're like,
so
no.
True.
So I learned the business. And then what I do is I try out my tactics. Like if I'm going out for dinner with friends or socializing, I will try and sneak parts of my presentation into social conversations.
Like comedians do.
Yeah. Like when they do it, this is another trick I got from comedians. When you see these interviews with like late night shows and they're setting them up for the jokes. They're fully doing their material.
Yes.
Right? Or they're trying out jokes in social conversations. So my first Toastmasters meeting, long time ago, not every club has this, but I was the joke master. Some clubs have a joke master.
Yeah.
You sell a little, G-rated joke. And what I did is for the 3 to 4 days leading up to that meeting, I was sneaking that joke into like every single conversation I had. And it's just another way to replicate that in front of other people.
Do you remember the joke?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you. So the first 4 or 5 times I did it, I ruined it, right? Because I stumbled in my words. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Let me back up. That kind of thing, right? 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time, I'm getting through it. I'm not getting last. 10, 11, 12th time I'm doing it. Every time it's sneaky, I'm killing it. I'm killing it. Now, okay, hold on. It's been like maybe 20 years since I said this joke. So there's an engineer. And he's this amazing engineer. He's building bridges and everything, right? But he's under a lot of stress. And one day he has a heart attack and he dies. So he goes up to heaven and he gets to the gate and the person's like, I'm sorry, your name's not here. And he's like, what do you mean? But all I've done is build bridges and help highways and help people. I'm an engineer. He's like, I'm sorry, you must have done something. So the guy pulls the thing, he goes straight to hell.
Wow.
Gets to hell, the devil's like, who are you? I was like, I'm so-and-so, I'm an engineer. He's like, engineers? Man, we don't get a lot of you down here, but hey, welcome. And all of a sudden they put him to work. So before you know it, hell's got like all these amazing bridges and water slides and really tall buildings and everything, like it's very futuristic. And the people upstairs are like, why is everything going so well in hell? So they call down there and they realize they've made a mistake. You know what? We sent you that engineer. He should be up here. And the devil's like, I don't care. You're never getting him back. He's like, you better send him up here or we're going to sue you. And he's like, oh yeah? Where are you going to find a lawyer? That was
amazing.
That was my first Toastmaster joke.
Did it get a good laugh that day?
Yeah, I got about the same as you did. It's not like the craziest, funniest joke, but if people were like, that's what everyone in the audience just did. They took a second.
But I think that's key. So what I used to do...
It's a thinker.
I love it because a lot of people in their delivery, especially with one-liners in comedy, I use one-liners in comedy to get the people to relax. Like a little massage, like, hey guys, we're going to have a bit of fun tonight.
Yeah.
But it's not like a joke that'll make or break the presentation. So a lot of people don't want to say one-liners or little jokes at the beginning because they feel like And a lot of people deliver them in such a way where it's like, ah, and if they don't get a laugh, it's super awkward. So that delivery is really key. I used to start all my shows with, "Hi, my name is Stephan Dyer, and I'm Costa Rican," or as most people call us, Mexican. and then I'm like, "Any Mexicans in the house?"
I feel like that would be great because I would get such an uncomfortable laugh, and you could highlight, "Oh, you laughed. That means you're racist."
Yeah. And then I'd be like, I'm a big nomad. I've lived in different countries. My parents are Peruvian. I was born in Costa Rica. I've also lived in El Salvador, Mexico, Montreal, and Toronto, all because of my dad's job. My dad is a drug lord, and that would get a laugh. And then, but it's not like it would never get a laugh like, ah!
Yeah, it's like nice warming up.
Yeah, just a nice warming up. A lot of my students and clients ask me, and I really want to ask you this because you're exceptional in stage presence and crowd working. I think one of your biggest talents is making things non-awkward.
Thanks.
And I think that's
tell your lady friends, I am single.
I think that's a key ingredient for being a really good MC because you need to be able to deal with things that, like, it never goes perfect. They'll tell you,
it's always a gong show.
Yeah,
it's always a gong show backstage.
And you're the face of the event. So how do you deal with people who don't look engaged? Because it's easy to take it personal.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were just born with that face, like they're just born with a face with a resting bitch face or a resting boring face. What do you do to not take it personally and not necessarily recoup them into being back into the show, but to not let that affect your performance? Sometimes these people who look like they're having a shitty time, they come after the show and they're like, "Man, this was amazing."
Yeah, can't read faces, yeah.
So you can't take it personal. Do you have anything that you've learned along the years of how to engage audiences that don't look engaged at the beginning?
Yeah, so one of the this is the fundamental, and if I'm speaking, I'm going to be speaking like when you're hosting an event.
Yeah.
Or maybe like if you want to host a wedding, but even if you're starting off a meeting or whatever, this applies to this applies. The fundamental, I'm going to say, it's not an error, but the thing that separates like people who are just big personalities versus really good MCs, like really good hosts, is people think that if you want to be a good host or a good MC, you have to have the energy. You have to do all the work, right? And so they'll come at like 150%. Yeah, come on, everybody. And this is, and I've worked in lots of different places. 9 out of 10 people have nothing except, "Come on, make some noise. Come on, you can do better than that. So make some noise.
Yeah.
Come on, make some." That's literally what anyone does to get the audience excited. And you're trying to be really big. You're trying to be louder than everyone. But you can't maintain that. And it comes across, people get tired of it.
Yes.
They're like, "Oh, just put the show on."
It's exhausting.
The secret is making the crowd do more. So a really good MC, especially when you have a boring crowd, don't try and energize them with your energy. Get them to do something.
Yes.
This is one of the things I get like I do all the time to bring the energy up or to break the ice with an audience. I will come out and I'll give you an example from like hosting an event, and I'll give you an example if you ever want to do any kind of training or something like that.
Yeah.
I get the audience to come out, and I'll get everyone to give me like, I did this at the Pan American Food Festival, right? They had to shut down the entire place, like electricity, like it was pitch black because of a thunderstorm. And then we had to bring everyone back. It was dead silent and completely, I'm talking no light, because they cut off the electricity. And then they were like, "Iván, we got to bring people back." So I was working with the MC, with the DJ and everything, got them all back. And a bunch of people came back, but they weren't like hyped.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I decided to do like a little photo with the audience. And people do that.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to do a photo. You get them to do different things in the photo. If you've ever played the improv game, you do improv like family portrait.
Mm-hmm.
I got them to, I'm like, "Everybody, give me your best like muscle man, right? And give me your best sexy face." And then what you do is you highlight someone who's doing it really good.
Yes.
And you say, "What's your name?" Everybody look at this guy. Everyone, and when you highlight the audience, everyone gets excited.
Totally.
You get the audience to do, I don't do anything. I'm just like, "Look at that. Everyone look at this guy. Look at that kissy face. That's amazing. What's your name?" "I don't care. Everyone do a kissy face like this guy." Or I have little things, right?
Yeah.
And everyone looks, they'll see the guy do the face. A bunch of people around that person will laugh. That gets everyone excited. All right, on 3, everyone do that guy. And then again, you stop. How come you weren't doing it, sir?
Yes.
Let me see your kissy face. Again, everyone looks over here at this person. That, boom, you get the audience to do work.
Yeah, man.
In a corporate environment, let's say it's 20 people and you're speaking at a conference and you're the last person on the last day. You know what I mean? What do you do then? Well, you do the same thing, but you ask a question that seems unrelated and then you relate it to the topic. So give me a random topic.
Sports.
Be more specific.
Book. Okay, let's...
Give me a more specific.
Harry Potter.
Okay. Oh.
Well, Harry Potter's not a sport.
Give me a boring topic. Give me like a topic
boring?
that you'd find at a conference.
Okay, Salesforce.
Salesforce, right? So let's say you're doing a presentation and you have to talk about all the different characteristics of the new Salesforce update interface.
Yeah.
Right? Look at our new database features. And it is 4:30 p.m. right before the open bar networking session. And you're looking at 100 people who are just dead inside.
Yeah.
Right? What do you do then? I would think of a question. I say something like, is anyone here a loser? Hands up, loser? No losers in the room? Really? Well, here's the thing. Sometimes when we're looking at potential staffing people, like the potential clientele, we want to build our clientele list. On paper, they might not look like a good potential client, a good sale. But if you meet them, maybe they're building a business and in 5 years, they're going to be a millionaire. So don't trust what you do on paper. Our new database features have helped you identify non-traditional ways of valuing customers. Something like that. I start off with something that seems unrelated, very simple. You know, sometimes and it's always I ask the question like, give me another topic.
Harry Potter or business related?
No, let's do business stuff because a lot of the audience isn't going to be doing
compliance.
Appliances?
Compliance
with...
Like compliance, like due diligence, like know your customer or anti-money laundering.
Sure. Okay. Let's do anti-money. Oh, let's do a compliance issue with it.
Or like accounting at a branch. Nobody wants to do that. Or like mutual funds.
Yeah. Okay. How about we do something like this? Has anyone here ever told a lie? Mm-hmm. And everyone would be like, everyone here, put your hands up, you lying liars. If you said, I'm sorry, really busy. Sorry, I forgot. You've told a lie. You probably told a lie today.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You probably told a lie. How do you know if someone is lying on their balance sheet? That's why compliance is important. Something like that.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it ties back into the pain.
Yeah.
It ties back into fear and pain.
The audience to do the work. Because the audience, you make them put their hands up, right?
Yeah.
Or you get them to look around. They're like, what's happening right now?
Because emotions, like attaching to lying, to pain, to balance. I love it. Fear. Mm-hmm. And I had on the podcast a guy that I shared in a panel at the Toastmasters International Conference. His name is Mark Brown, and he was the 1995 world champion of public speaking.
Cool. Awesome.
And the guy said, don't deliver a speech. No, don't give a speech. Deliver an experience. And I find that, like, we're talking about good to great in the book, good to great experience, good to great presentations. Nobody's going to remember what you said in like 3 days. Nobody cares. A lot of people don't even want to be in these business meetings. But when people participate, they learn more.
I love that.
And they're not bored. Maybe even if they're bored, but they get to participate. And they're now part of the presentation because give me that kissy face, you know? What's your name? Andrew. Andrew here has been giving us the best faces, and thank you, Andrew. And even when you're doing presentations on Zoom, for example, and it's just you and 9 colleagues or maybe 90 colleagues, none of these people want to be on Zoom. Mm-hmm. Everybody on Zoom is not on Zoom. They're working while on Zoom.
Big time.
And what I tell my students, because we use this in comedy, is mention your colleagues in your presentation. Yeah. It's like the radio in the 90s, you know? It's like your girlfriend would call to the radio, like in Latin America, and be like, un saludo para Iván. And Iván home would be like, oh my God, they mentioned my name on the radio. So on Zoom, you could be like, thank you for being here. We're going to review the results for this week. And Andrew, I wanted to thank you so much for sending me those slides. I wouldn't have been able to do them without you. And then 5 minutes later, you're like, Martha, the sales analysis that you did was just off the hook. I know you abandoned a couple projects to be able to help me with that. Yeah. So, and then Martha and Andrew, every time you mention people,
I would take that to the next level.
Yeah,
because you're right. Because this is the thing. Everyone here knows this. if you've ever been in a crowded room and someone says your name, you're always like, boom, you can always recognize your name. And Dale Carnegie says that a person's name is the most beautiful word in the English language.
Yes.
Something like that, one of the dollars. But here's the thing. Take that to the next level now. The next time you're doing a virtual session, as people are coming in, just say, what's up? What's up, John?
Oh, yeah,
hey,
we do
Sarah,
that too.
Hassan, good to see you there. Because there's people like, what?
Yeah.
They said my name? Yeah.
And then you can take it, and you do it in the chat too.
Constantly.
Like, everybody in the chat right now, I'm going to read all of you. What's the worst thing that happened to you in the pandemic? Or what was the best thing that happened to you? And as you're reading the comments, say the name of the person.
Oh, I love that so-and-so. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The more you say that, that's great. And you touch upon another point. And that is, so when you work in in-house animation is one term, like when you do football games or like sporting events, and I do a lot of those. Infotainment is the term.
Dropping facts as you're saying stuff, or what do you mean?
The idea is this. Here, do this with me right now. I'm gonna. Oh no, you can't. You don't have your phone. You got your computer in front of you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Super hard question. Let me think. Who are the top 3 greatest mathematicians in the world?
Okay.
In history, go. Top 3 greatest mathematicians in the world. Go.
Okay.
I'm counting in my head.
Leonard Euler, Srinivasa Ramanujan, and Carl Friedrich Gauss.
That took you 8 seconds.
Isaac Newton and Euclid and Archimedes.
Okay, now you're just showing off. But here's the thing. In a world where all information can be accessed in seconds, why should I listen to you?
Oh, that's so good.
So the concept, the future of communication is not information, because information is almost valueless because we can all get it for any time we want. It is how you deliver that information.
Yes.
And the way you deliver that information needs to do something that is entertaining, hence infotainment. Because the future of communication is making people enjoy the experience of getting information that they can find out for themselves. It's why we listen to podcasts. It's not, you could go and read, it's why sometimes you watch reality shows instead of documentaries, because there's an entertainment aspect to them. How does this apply to, like, let's say virtual communication? And this is the thing. You're doing this, and I love that you're doing this. If you want people to have an experience, they must be constantly doing things.
Yeah.
The second I stop and be passive is the second I can go and check my email. So that means you have to have a diversity of interaction throughout your 1-hour virtual session. If you were just to say yes or no in the chat, after the second or third time you do it, it's not as engaging anymore. If you get people, here's a big one. Here's a couple of quick. Getting people to turn their cameras on and off constantly.
Yeah.
Turn your cameras on, give me a thumbs up. Count to 10, so that way people feel like, because then whoever's not paying attention will be like, oh geez, and they'll turn that on. Good. All right, turn your cameras back off. Boom. That little physical action is enough to bring people in. Okay, now this time in the chat, instead of give me a yes or no, give me a smiley face.
An emoji, yeah.
Get people to go on scavenger hunts and use your little name thing. So saying, I would say something like this, or how long is short-term memory? Can everyone, real quick, and I want to see everyone answer. How long is short-term memory? People go, post a link or a number in the chat, and you'll start seeing it. And you say, okay, I got it. You think it's so-and-so? I'll say the names. By getting people to do a variety of different things, you are creating that infotainment, because you're creating that shared experience, as you were saying.
Yes.
And that is crucial online. And I say, if I was going to say, how long is short-term memory? What do you think off the top of your head? How long is attention span?
I don't know, 20 seconds?
Sure, let's say 20 seconds. That means that every 20 seconds I have to do something.
Yeah.
Let's say it's 2 minutes. That means every 2 minutes I have to do something. And if you're listening, you can't just do that like, okay, sure. That's going to take time to build up to. But the moral of the story is, if you have a 20-minute presentation or a 1-hour speed presentation that you have to get through in 30 minutes, whatever it is, how many times can you add some sort of interaction? Yes or no in the chats, smiley faces in the chats, share a link. I'm just going to give you chatting, share a link in the chat, find a number in the chat, give me your opinion of something in the chat. In 3 words or less in the chat, send me a private message in the chat, share an emoji in the chat.
Yes.
Each one of those, if you could do 4 of those in a 20-minute presentation, that's better than doing 1 of them.
Totally. And don't be one of those people who leaves like the last slide of 500 slides to questions, because nobody wants to ask a question after 3 hours of a meeting that they didn't even want to be there. So I like to have the questions, like after a couple paragraphs where I'll ask people questions. We'll get the conversation going.
Ask questions all the time. That's another way to get people interacting. Absolutely.
And then
let me ask you this though.
Yeah.
Totally interrupting you. What is a good last slide? Or what's a good way to end with? What's a good visual to end with?
Well, you know what? I don't use PowerPoints.
Good for
because PowerPoints are boring. Maximum 3 slides.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do, at least with comedy, I'll end it on a callback. I'll end it on a high note, and that's it. Like we're all about the experience. I don't care about PowerPoint, because when are you ever gonna read this PowerPoint again? Not 99.9, unless the PowerPoint is incredible and it's something that they really, really, really want to use, like speaking.
Well, what people do is they make a PowerPoint and that's their leave behind. That'll be the thing that they want people to read.
Yeah.
But then they show the thing that's meant to be read, and that's the trap.
Yeah.
I love the callback, by the way, because that's what I always tell people. The best endings refer to your beginning. And it's like going full circle. It's like you make a reference to something you said at the beginning, at the very end, and then you just say like, thanks. Because then people are like, oh, and it allows you to reinforce your message.
And people feel in.
Yeah.
They feel smart.
They feel like they went on a journey and you ended together.
100%. So all of our students, we tell them for the comedy grad show. Huh?
No, I'm trying to remember what we started with now.
We started with like enormous amounts of alcohol.
Enormous amounts of alcohol. Okay. Let's see if we remember to end this with a reference to getting trashed.
Yes. Well, we're coming towards the end of this.
No, we got another 50. You got another 34 minutes in. We got
another 34 hours.
I'm here all night long.
Well, we should do it 34 hours because this is our last episode after I'm getting canceled.
But release it in 17 different Well, do one of like the stupid Walking Dead. It's like the final season, part 1 of 3. It was like, well, it's not your final season, is it? It's 3 more seasons, you lying liars.
And every episode is like 9 hours.
It's so annoying. Sorry, this is for the Walking Dead fans out there. Walking Dead. This is the problem with something that is popular.
Yeah.
You got to just like bleed it out. Like that show became popular, and they're like, how long can we what is the expression like? How long can we milk this cow or ride this pony, whatever? They're just bleeding it.
They're beating the dead donkey.
Beating a dead dog. Or you can't flog a dead horse.
Well,
send your references to, what's the email address for the podcast?
The Stephan Dyer Podcast at gmail.com.
Send that. Send all your famous expressions.
We have so much money for this podcast that we're hosting it on Gmail.
That's right.
One of the things that I love the most about your website is that it says
I gotta go update
your presentation starts before you say a word.
Yeah.
I read something, I don't know where, but I agree with it. I don't know if it's the exact stat, but people will make judgments of you and they'll draw their own conclusions of you in the first 7 seconds that they speak. But I think, in my opinion, it's before you speak, even on the way, even when they see your photo on the thing, it starts way, way, way before. Can you elaborate on this?
Absolutely, and I 100% agree with you. Well, let me give you a scenario. To the listening audience right now, think about this. Suppose you're searching for something online, okay? Best brands of Bacardi. You hit the link. It's not what you wanted. You push the back button to go back to the search. How quickly do you make the decision to push the back button?
Like in 0.01 seconds.
Nothing. Super. You're like, no, that's not it. Some people, 2-3 seconds. That's a lot. Then back button. That's a ton of time. You've already made your decisions.
Yeah.
So that's how people quickly decide. That's how quickly people decide. This is exactly what you're saying. 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
And so your presentation starts the second people can see you.
Totally.
So if I'm introducing you and you're standing beside me, that's it. I'm already making that first impression. Think about people who get up, walk in that awkward silence that they get up to the stage or they get up to wherever they have to speak. And they're like, okay, here we go. Is the PowerPoint? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Oof. Okay. Hi, everybody. It's too late now. It's too late. That all awkwardness that I just gave you, that's people are like, oh, this is a standard presentation. This is what we see all the time.
And they check out.
So here's the thing. If that happens 9 out of 10 times, is it not my banking friend? The definition of a market opportunity.
100%.
to do something different. If everyone is zigging, you must, of course, zag.
Zag.
Is that zigzag? Yeah, you have to zag. So what I tell people is there's a bunch of little physical tactics, because here's the thing. So much communication is nonverbal. There's a book called Brain Rules, written by a neuroscientist named John Medina, and he talked about how the brain has evolved to process information. This is some of the neuroscience research. And he says vision trumps all senses.
Wow.
Our vision is our primary input factor. We vision before hearing, taste, anything. We look at something. That is how we have evolved as people, right? That means that the second I see you, I'm already making decisions.
Totally.
So there are physical things you can do to communicate confidence or energy, even when you don't feel it. Because I believe that confidence is a physical action.
Totally.
You're nervous on stage, they never see it, even though you're nervous, because it is you're physically changing things, right? So here's the easiest thing you can do. If you want to make a really good first impression, and you're sitting at the back of the room, and it's going to take you like 14 seconds to walk up to the front, as you do that, try and face your body to as many people as you can. Don't walk in a beeline, like actually walk and like angle yourself to every table and kind of just, you don't even have to look at them, just angle yourself to every table. And as you this is awesome audio, but the video people, go check them out on YouTube so you can see this. As you walk, be like, looking at people as you go, right away, they're all going to be like, whoa, okay. And you know who does that really well?
You?
Really successful politicians.
Yes.
Who are vapid.
I had never thought of that.
I had a friend of mine who met Bill Clinton.
Master.
He met Bill Clinton. And he talked about how when Bill Clinton walked into a room, everyone knew he was there because people were like, oh, hey. Because he would engage. He wouldn't talk to anyone, but he would engage. And that's where that trope of like waving at people as you walk in, that's where that came from. We make fun of it because it looks so fake, but it started from a place of actual effectiveness. It just got formalized into looking cheesy.
I agree. I agree. I always do like the semi jog. Like show
a little energy, walk up a little fast,
say hi, even if it's like 4 people, I like as if it's the Scotiabank Arena full hi, and I smile because I don't want anybody in that audience to feel like I'm not ready for this. I acknowledge you, I'm ready, I prepared, and I'm excited to be here. Because I hate this one. In Toastmasters, there's public speaking competitions, or sometimes I've seen it at open mics where somebody will come up on stage, and it's like, and now, please help me welcome John Smith. And John will come in like looking like he hasn't slept in 5 days. Yeah. And the guy's like, "Oh, hi guys. What do you want me to say?" Well, guys, as I was driving here,
Toastmasters, most welcome guest.
Yeah, guys, I didn't know what to. As I was driving in here, I was thinking like, "Oh, what should I say?" I actually didn't prepare for this, and then I'm like, as an audience member, I'm like,
but don't tell me that. Lie to me a little bit. Don't tell me you didn't prepare.
I'm like, if you didn't prepare, I don't want to listen.
Yeah, big time.
So everything of me I wanted to say, I'm ready. Of not just from what I'm wearing, but like my physicality, my smile, my tonality. Because a lot of these people, like you said, they check out before even you say a word.
Yeah,
if you don't look.
It's gonna be like standard presentation.
Yeah.
I'll give you another really good example. Yeah. Back before the love affair with Trudeau ended, and for people who aren't listening in Canada, that's the Prime Minister of Canada. When he first got elected the first time, and there was hope before it was destroyed by it. Because now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have no opinion on politics. This is just the truth of the situation.
Yes.
He was riding this wave for the first 6-7 months of his career where he was like, he was like, this guy's the future.
Yeah.
And he did a presentation at the what's that thing? The world, not the United Nations.
Yeah.
The United Nations Youth Forum.
Yeah.
And he walked on stage, and right away, there was a podium. He walked right past the podium and stepped off the podium to be like, "Hi, everybody, how's it going?" And twice, the organizers kept trying to push him back. No, go speak behind the podium. He's like, no, here. And he finally just grabbed the mic and walked off the stage. He said, "Hi, everybody." And he got a standing ovation. because he did that little physicality of like, no, I don't want to hide over here. I want to walk up in front of everyone.
Yes.
And nobody does that. Everyone just beelines it to the podium. He made an effort to walk right past it, go right and start saying hi to people, and then grab the mic, and then continued to say hi to people. Said nothing, vapid, no content in any of his words, but without saying anything, he got a standing ovation after hello.
I love
because he made that physical gesture of what you're talking, that energy of coming in and engaging the audience.
I love that. I always, whenever there's podiums at whatever, I ditch it. I love to be as close as possible to the audience, because two things. First of all, for people who are short, if you're short and you're behind a podium,
that was such a non sequitur. Is that right? So first of all, if you want to engage an audience, shorties.
So basically, if you're short and you're behind a podium, even if it's a short podium, you look short. But if you're far away from the audience, if you're far, how tall are you?
Like 5'8", maybe.
Like 5'8". Yeah, I'm like 5'6", 5'7". So if you're all the way to the back of the stage, it gives off an impression like you're scared, like you don't want to be close to them. And as a stand-up comedian, especially if you're short, you want to come up close, like saying, "I'm not scared of you guys. I'm here, and I want to connect." But if you're behind,
by the way, that was a very offensive question. Just so you guys know, asking a guy how tall they are is like asking a woman how much she weighs.
Well, only
everyone exaggerates. Everyone exaggerates.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Just 6'2".
I'm like 6'3".
Yeah.
Like 6'3".
So I'm like,
heels.
I want to be right in front of these people so that it doesn't look like I'm shying away from this presentation.
But you know what the funniest thing?
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine, and he's also a client. And whenever he introduced me, he's like 6'5".
Yeah.
He's such a giant. And every time I see him, there's a few pictures of us, and he looks almost like it's cut and paste, because he's so much taller than me that he's actually like leaning down. Like it looks like when in the Hobbit,
Yeah.
you know, when they're like leaning down. It looks
really like
funny.
You're his kid.
Yeah. So I said, from now on, just sit down and introduce me, so we can look eye to eye.
I love it. And also, like, you people look constrained by that space, so they feel like they have something energetic to say, but they can't move because they already committed to that podium, and it's weird. A lot of people are just scared of the mic and grabbing it because they don't know how to control it. So again, to rehearsing, the biggest tip I can give you, apart from practicing a lot, is arrive early. Because you don't want to mess up. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to fiddle with the PowerPoint, with the projector. It fucks with your confidence, and you're messing with the audience's credibility about you. If you're like, let me just fix this projector, and you're like, dude, you could have done this like an hour ago before we arrived.
Shows up early. Can I this is you know what? They've never returned my emails anyway, so what the hell? Who cares? I was gonna say Toastmasters will never call me again. They never call. So many, like 20 years ago, I was at like a district.
Yeah.
It wasn't a district. It might have been like, no, it might have been a district. So it was one of the big competitions, right? To find out who was going to be like the best speaker in the district to go into the national.
Yeah.
And all these people showed up, and none of them had come in early. No one had thought to test the PA system.
Yeah.
So the meeting didn't start on time because they realized there was no PA system, and it wasn't set up. And so they had to like wait for like a technician to come and set it up, and everyone's like kind of like, sorry everybody, we're gonna get started. And I remember being in the audience, and there's two people behind me, and like they're like, so these guys are professionals, huh? And they started giggling, and I thought, never again, never me. And I do
totally.
I will show up to a meeting virtually. They're like, oh, we'll meet 15 minutes in advance. I'm like, can I come in the day before and then an hour early? Because how often do you hear like, oh no, I don't know, oh it's great, my computer's updating. These are all like little excuses for like you didn't practice technology. Practicing technology, and if you can never choose where you speak. I was tearing apart some public speaking advice on YouTube. This guy from like MIT, and he was like, make sure you always speak at this time and these types of locations. You will never choose what time you speak, nor will you ever choose where you get. You have to adapt to anything, but you can't choose how early you get there.
Yes.
And you mimic, and you see cake. I will show up like the day before, and like, I brought my computer. Can we connect it to see if it works? Oh, it'll be fine. Can we just try?
Yeah.
Because no one does it, and then what ends up happening?
Like the batteries, like the mic batteries. Do we have batteries? Yeah. No, I want to see them.
Oh
or I'll bring my own.
Yeah, exactly. No one prepares for that. And online, I'll give you another one, online. So I had to do a Microsoft Teams workshop, and I had not used Microsoft Teams. And the client was like, well, we'll log in about 5 minutes early. And I was like, no, dude, can I come in like an hour early? I was like, you don't have to be there.
Yeah. And
we did, and I did. He let me in, and then he left. I'm like, go do your thing. I'm fine here. And all I did was practice the technology, practice sharing, stop sharing. And guess what happened? The first few times, I messed it up. I couldn't figure out how to share a screen, how to stop. Where's the button for stop?
Yeah.
But by the time they all showed up, I was smooth because I practiced in the situation.
The experience.
In the virtual room.
The experience for them. Because you could give them the winning lottery numbers. But if the presentation sucked, they're going to be like, that presentation sucked.
Yeah.
Because you can give them the best Salesforce tips. But if your PowerPoint is messing up, you don't know how to control it, you're muting yourself all the time, they're going to be like, man, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And you might not even get to give them the best tips anyways. So I wholeheartedly agree.
Stephan, how many Einsteins, how many world-changing ideas do you think we've lost to boredom?
All of them.
That's why I wrote the book.
All of them.
Because for all we know, we could be living in space right now if people were better communicators. Because the world is full of amazing ideas that nobody cares about.
That is so true, man. We've lost all of the great ideas, probably.
Yeah. Think about that.
And one of the things that I like.
Speaking of great ideas, this show is brought to you by.
No sponsor, because we don't have an official sponsor yet. But if you want to be the official sponsor
get in while the getting's good.
The Stephan Dyer Podcast, contact us at the Stephan Dyer Podcast at gmail.com. I like to say this thing where I want to get your insight on before the last question of the podcast.
Okay. This is the question before the question.
Yeah, before the question. So I like to say, you know how people say like, oh, you have to have your elevator pitch ready and blah, 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 blah. And that's fine. I have nothing against it. Although I haven't been in many elevators where people are like, what's your elevator pitch? Yeah. But
also, if someone did that to you, you'd be like, get away from me.
Yeah.
Elevator
exactly.
Don't work.
Yeah.
No one. Keep on.
What's your elevator pitch? Working from home. So I like to say that your story, because people have a finite amount of retention ability to retain information.
See, I like that. Insulting the whole audience. That's really good.
Exactly.
Yeah. The listener, you hear me? You got nothing upstairs, listener.
Nothing.
That's why you listen to us. We tell you what to think.
Exactly. So basically,
how rude.
If you tell them a bunch of things that are not useful,
okay,
maybe they'll remember and they'll check out because the first 30 things that you said were not that good. But maybe the 31st one was the best one, but they already checked out.
Yeah.
So going back to the elevator pitch, I like to say that the best speeches or the best way for you to sell yourself is telling a compelling enough story, a short and sweet enough story that Iván will be able to sell me when I'm not present.
Mm.
So if my story of what I want to do in the business world or what I'm doing right now is short and sweet, then you'll be able to tell it on my behalf when I'm not there. But if I tell you like 48 hours worth of stories, then you might not even remember any of them, or you might tell the wrong one because it wasn't sweet enough.
I got 2 anecdotes for you, actually.
Yeah, love it.
So there's actually, I can't remember the name of it, but there was this very interesting study that was done about 4 years ago that talked about memory and retention. And one of the things they found was that when people are told an anecdote and then asked to recall the anecdote 6-7 months later, that anecdote, if you look at brain activity, seems to be stored where we store experiences. So when you say a compelling story that people can remember, what they hypothesize is that we tend to store anecdotes from other people in our personal experience centers, which is, and this is the part that no one goes to that next step. People say stories are compelling, but no one tells you why, and they always use like fluffy language. This is the science behind that, because it seems that we store when you tell a story that works, it has an emotional response, and therefore we store it in the parts of our brain as if we experienced it.
Yeah, sometimes
which is why it's easier to recall anecdotes.
Sometimes
which is why anecdotes are convincing. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I thought, did that happen to me or to my brother?
Yeah, because you experience it the same way. And here's how you know that works. You know what P90X is?
Yeah, like the
workout,
sports stuff. Yeah, the sports.
that is one example. But all fitness things do it. P90X just did it better than others. And that is, they will show you these infomercials. Where like, look at me, I did this, like I've been doing this for 9 days. Now I wash shirts with my abs because it's so raw. And they'll show you all these personal anecdotes. And you know that's not the case. Like you intuitively, you know that. They will have a little sign that says, these are not typical results, or don't expect these type of results, right? And even though you know that, you're still like, well, maybe I should try it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Because the anecdote, when it is effective, the story, when it is effective, is stored in the experience centers of the brain. And as a result, it's as if you're experiencing it, therefore it has more of an impact on you.
I love that.
And it is more retained because when you add an emotional component, and by emotion, I don't mean like joy, love, I mean literally an adrenaline response, that tends to multiply the effect.
I love it. I love it.
I know. What do you say after that? I just dropped some truth. Right, truth on you all. So let me give you, here's the thing. If you're ever going to give in facts, because let's be real, like a lot of us, if we're working in sales, we're talking about figures, numbers, an anecdote is not evidence. An anecdote, it is not evidence, but it is more convincing than evidence. Every single person listening or watching this podcast has eaten a food because someone else said they did it and it was like really healthy. Not a single person here knows why kale is good for you. Not a single person does. Every time it's like, I don't know, like vitamin B, it's green. Like nobody knows. Why? Because you heard someone did it and look at me, my blood pressure is low. Maybe I gotta eat some kale. Coconut, whatever. Water, milk, juice, oils. Not a single person actually knows if that's good for you or not. Not a single one. And if you look at the evidence, it's not. But anecdotal evidence, hence why it is so impactful, because it is stored in the experience and emotional sense.
Simon Sinek says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Yeah.
And anecdotes, by definitions, typically have a reasoning and a justification for why people did what they did.
Yeah, dude.
As opposed to you saying, I did that. And that's why premises in comedy have a justification too.
Yeah.
Because if
more
you're
than
like,
just a joke, it's like a whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could say I hate puppies. Okay, whatever, man. Why? So what? But when you justify it, I mean, the premise may not, like, just I hate puppies may not be. Yeah, okay, whatever.
That's not funny.
But when you justify it,
you know. When I was a kid, my parents got a puppy and they loved it more than me.
There you go.
And so as a result, I killed the puppy. And to this day, every time I see a puppy, I just want to be like, snap a neck. Just
exactly.
Snap a neck, right?
Because you were under lots of amounts of alcohol.
Because, callback. So let's take a shot. That's the Stephan Dyer Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. How about a round of applause? Woo!
But we have the last question, which
that would have been a great way to end it, dude.
I know. But maybe we can still do it again.
I mean, you did ruin it, but that's fine.
That's okay. So the question that every guest gets is, if we were to meet a year from now with a bottle of champagne, what are we celebrating in Iván's life?
I mean, in a year from now, I'm going to be too busy. So you'll have to there'll be 3 other people you got to talk to before you can even talk to.
Yeah, 3 managers?
At least.
Oh, each manager has a manager.
Yeah. It's like the guy to the guy to the guy. No, say your question again.
If we were to meet a year from now, 2023, what are we celebrating in Iván's life? Anything that...
well, I can tell you that what my current goal, my current goals are. And one of the things is I'm at the point in my career now. Here's the thing about hosting is great, but it's so niche, and it doesn't matter how it doesn't matter the FIFA doesn't matter. It's not like my name is known internationally now. It's so few jobs. So as much as I love to do that, it's constrained by my time, and it's not something that can necessarily grow. It stays static. Like you can be an awesome waiter and make great tips, but there's no growth in that lifestyle. You're just always going to that's stagnant. It's stagnant.
Yes.
Right. And public speaking is, again, constrained by my time. So I'm doing well, I'm busy and stuff like that, but I'm busy. So it means I'm saying no to work, which means, because I can only do so much.
Totally.
So my goal is to really move, and you should interview her, actually. She's amazing. I actually she's one of my old students who is now I'm like, will you mentor me?
Yes.
Because she has essentially created her own online presence. And she generates income based on her knowledge, but not her time.
Absolutely. What's her name?
It's called The Career Diet.
Wow.
On Instagram, The Career Diet. I'll introduce you to her. She's
That'd
great.
be amazing.
Dude, you know what she did? I gotta tell. I know.
Yeah.
About a year and a half ago, we reconnected because she was my student like 7-8 years ago or something, right? And she was starting this. She wanted to start her. She wasn't happy in her life, so she decided to start. Like she did this whole thing on Instagram where she wanted to grow her Instagram to feed to a course, right? So when I talked to her, she had started. I remember when I first saw her on Instagram, she had 150 followers. When we talked, she had 5,000-6,000. Then all of a sudden, by the time we actually hung out and we kind of collaborated on a few things, she had 30,000. She's almost at 100K. And it's a year later. And at about 30,000 people related to her topic, she created this online course, and she's created subsequent courses now. And that was enough that we were talking that she was able to leave her 9 to 5 sales job. And now she just does that. She works a lot, but it's the work that she wants to do.
Yeah.
She can be locationless if she wants to. I'm trying to convince her to become a digital nomad. I'm like, you should be a nomad. Be a nomad. And she's like, no, she's settled here, right? And she started this whole career for herself.
Wow.
And she's built that up like crazy. And that's kind of one of my goals.
I love it. Well, you're doing it
I want to be a virtual presence.
You're doing it incredibly well with Coursera and Udemy. Over 140,000, over 50,000 on Udemy as well. Traveling all over the world. Man, this was incredible. I think my audience, which is very interested in improving, pushing the envelope, seeing where they can take it. A lot of people who have corporate jobs, a lot of entrepreneurs.
Call me.
Call him. Call us.
Call us, yeah.
And they'll see a lot of value, because I do feel, like you said, there's a big opportunity here where we got a bunch of subject matter experts with great ideas that nobody cares about because they just fall asleep whenever they talk.
Yeah, man.
So I hope that by listening to this, they will at least come up with 2 or 3 new ideas that they can test. Not in the big environments. You could remember, you could test them in small scale.
Big time.
In small environments.
Do it at the next kids party you're at.
Yeah.
Who here wants to learn about compliance?
Yes.
Hey? No, the cake's going to come out in a minute. Stop. Hey, stop crying. The cake's coming out in a minute. First, I want to talk about tax compliance. And if that's not having the effect, do it again at the next birthday party with a different opening.
Or go to Young and Bluer. And join Iván and his executive client.
I'll be the crazy person standing beside the person trying to get your money for some charity. Under crazy amounts of alcohol.
Hey. Ladies and gentlemen, Iván Wanis Ruiz and Stephan Dyer on the Stephan Dyer Podcast.
It's been a pleasure, my friend.
Ciao, ciao.
Gracias por escuchar el Stephan Dyer Podcast. Arrivederci, my people.